it says, all it says, He leadeth me.
Amen.
And probably my favorite is the tomb of the unknown soldier, which says, Here rests in honored glory an American soldier known but to God. Are we that brave? To be content, to be known only to God? That we don't need to be noticed, rewarded, propped up, mentioned to get our security? You guys remember Lego My Ego? For some of us, it's time to Lego my ego. When I was competing in college debate tournaments, everyone wants to hear their name when they announce the speaker awards. And 10th speaker, everyone from around the nation, all the best universities comes, and the future, leaders of tomorrow and all this stuff. And you just want to hear your name on the lips of that person in front of the microphone, and a big trophy when you get up there and get it. And every one of your peers and professors and coaches from around the nation just looking at you like you're something. And I used to get some of those awards as I would speak, and the biggest tournament of my life, I got a speaker award, and I was in the bathroom. And I just didn't think I was going to get anything, and I was in the bathroom, and I came back, and they're like, dude, you got a trophy, I can't believe it, and it was like, oh, okay, I guess I missed that. I was crushed. Like my moment of glory! In front of 1,000 people. All these guys are now, politicians and all this stuff. Lawyers and prosecutors and all this. I remember being at a church conference one time, and several thousand people were there, and the speaker was someone that I knew personally, and I thought, ooh, he might mention my name. And everybody know how spiritual I am. I know you never think of stuff like that. And he started talking, and I'm like, here we go, it's about me. He's talking about, the way I became a Christian, and I was like, yeah. And then he starts talking about how prideful and arrogant I was. And it was at that point I was grateful he didn't mention my name. Lego my ego. I stopped wanting it about that time. Too dangerous. Can't trust a preacher. Jesus was God incarnate in an ignorant world where even his closest friends didn't give him the respect that he deserved. Instead of the whole world kneeling, instead they were busy nailing him to the cross. That's our example. Proverbs 18 verse 10. The name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous run to it and are safe. You decide what you're going to put your money on. What tower do you think is going to last? We're saying, lead me to the rock. He's our tower against the foe. We've been confused. We've been struggling. We've been going through a hard time. What's your tower? Where's your treasure? In verse 5, as you keep reading in the text in Genesis, it says, the Lord came down to see. You know it's bad when the Lord has to come down from the heavens to see. Can you imagine the Lord as one of our mamas? Don't make me come down there. If I come down there, we're going to do something, you know what I mean? God has to come all the way down and see what's going on. Now it's interesting, even though this is like the biggest, baddest tower that man can make, it was still too far away for God to see. He's kind of squinting. It's real small, I can't really see that. I'm going to have to come down and take a look, because I can't really see from back here. Like, that's all you got? Reminds me of what it says in Corinthians, for the foolishness of God is wiser than man's wisdom, and the weakness of God is stronger than man's strength.
That's right.
And then in verse 8, they stop building because he scatters them. Different languages, they get confused, and it's all bad. You know, at this point, you ask yourself, is this a metaphor? Is this a big fable, big fictional parable? Because, you know, it's powerful, but what did it really happen? I'm skeptical sometimes. I have to ask that question myself. And it's actually crazy as you do the research how much proof is in the pudding. Even history. And how even Babylon got its name. You know? I mean, Babylon, for the name of the most powerful city in the world, that's like New York City changing its name. That's like New York City being Bunch of Fools City. Alright? Bunch of Fools City. Alright, Babel. Bunch of confused fools. Bunch of Fools City. Huh. I don't really like that name. Can we get rid of it? I mean, this is Babylon. Rome. You know. Why did they change it? Because they couldn't escape the fact of how historically the city started. Yeah. You can try to change your name. You can call it New Amsterdam and all that kind of stuff. It's not going to stick. Oh, you're talking about Babylon. I got Babylon. Where everyone was confused. Yeah, I remember. No, we got a new name. We're not Hell's Kitchen anymore. We're Clinton, you know. And why is everyone wearing a shirt that says Hell's Kitchen? Why is there a TV show? Hell's Kitchen? I mean, you can't escape your name. This stuff is fact. That's a stone tablet, and on there, over here, is a dude named Nebuchadnezzar. And he writes about the Tower of Babel. If you were looking for evidence, he writes, a former king built it, but he didn't complete its head. Since a remote time, people had abandoned it without order expressing their words. He writes about the history that we have in the Bible. Bible and life. So he went back and tried to rebuild what was left undone. Luke chapter 9. We can turn there. We'll close with this. Luke chapter 9. A familiar passage to those of us who've been in this church for any length of time. We like this one. It helps us to understand what it takes to follow Jesus. Luke 9 verse 28. In the midst of giving the prereqs, the 101 for following Jesus and being a Christian, in the midst of that instruction, Jesus breaks down it like this. He says, suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Interesting how tower is constantly making its way through the Bible. It's a reference point starting with the Tower of Babel. People would recognize immediately, every time they heard it, the ziggurat, the tower, the reference point. They knew where this is coming from. Suppose you want to build a tower. Will he not first sit down and estimate the cost to see if he has enough money to complete it? For if he lays the foundation and is not able to finish it, everyone who sees it will ridicule him, saying, this fellow began to build and was not able to finish. Suppose you're building a tower, the tower of your life. And you consider your spiritual life as it is today. Where are you at in your plans? Are you at the foundation level, still figuring out if I want to put all my trust on the capstone? Are you beyond that and now into the Word, trying to figure out how much you really accept the truth of the Old and New Testament, which make up the foundation of our Word and our lives? Are you building the bricks above it? As we see, the bricks and the analogy are the people that are around us, that we're connecting with other people who are like-minded and want to be disciples of Jesus as well. Are we a part of that dwelling that is increasing? Where are we at? Maybe you've been building a tower, and you've counted the cost, and you've been forward. You know, I think about this idea of counting the cost. Whenever you walk into a store, especially in New York, if you don't have at least the amount of money that they're asking for, they will not give you the product. I hope you know that. This gum is $2.50. Well, I got a quarter. How about a deal? No deal. No deal. Well, can I take some pennies from this little tray right here? No, you can't take my pennies. Even if you kidding? That's 11 pennies. That's 36 cents. I want $2.50. Give me the gun back. You don't walk into a store and expect to be given stuff that you can't afford, you haven't thought about, you haven't counted the cost, you haven't worked for it.
Right.
But in the same way, spiritually, have we walked into this and said, hey, this is all I got. It better be good enough because I'm not doing a lot more. You know what? Take my quarter. Not like, hey, I'm giving all I got, please work with me. That's not what I'm talking about. Jesus is good with that. I'm talking about, I got more in my pocket, but I'm holding on to that for me. Counting the cost is not something we just do at the beginning of our spiritual lives.
Right.
We continue to count, estimate, what does it cost me?
Right.
What do I need to sacrifice
Right.
in order to have a relationship with God?
Yeah.
So what are you sacrificing? What do you put down on the table? Are we holding anything back?
Come on, John.
This is something only you and God, and with the help of some spiritual people, can figure out. How do you want to build your tower? Isaiah 2, you don't have to turn there on the screen, it reads like this. Because the Lord Almighty does have a day in store. You know, sometimes feel like the days are long, but the days will end eventually. And for all the proud and the lofty, for all that is exalted, they will be humbled. I'm not talking about doing great things. I'm talking about doing great things just for self and not for God. For all the cedars of Lebanon, tall and lofty, all the oaks of Bashan, for all the towering mountains, all the high hills, for every lofty tower, every fortified wall, every trading ship, every stately vessel, the arrogance of man will be brought low, and the pride of men humbled. And the Lord alone will be exalted in that day. Everything will be stripped down on that day. And the idols will totally disappear. In verse 22 it says, stop trusting in man, who has but a breath in his nostrils. Of what account is he? You know, unless the Lord builds a tower,